And according to law of unification, when we rise above the forces of the lower levels of consciousness, and when we unify our human mind with the idea mind, we can actually bring in new creations into the world, which will provide us fulfillment and which will help us, fulfill our individual dharma. So it's more like, again, it's the same thing. It's not only creating the material things into the world, the new things into the world, but it is also connecting. It is also helping us connect with that individual dharma, with our own true purpose, which will bring us spiritual fulfillment as well.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Kaur and Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Kaur and Swain. So great to be with you all again. And remember, if you're liking the shows, to please subscribe, leave a comment, press the like button, press the bell button if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on audio, do what it asks you to do on audio. Whichever platform you're listening helps the algorithms, helps us share the love, spread the messages throughout the cosmos, or at least throughout the land. All right. Have I got an interesting guest to introduce you to today? She's in India and her name is Divneet Kaur Lall. Welcome to the show, Divneet.
Hi, Karan. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so fascinated to talk to Divneet because she's in India. I want to quiz you about what's going on in India. I know that probably you don't know everything that's going on in India, as far as what's happening in the world with the current global crisis. Because if people ask me what's going on in Australia, I can only really tell them what's happening in my suburb, right, which is not depicting the rest of Australia. But anyway, I thought it'd be fascinating to speak to you, not only about your journey and what you're teaching, but what's happening in India. Let me tell people a little bit about you. So Divneet has been studying spiritual texts and practicing meditation techniques since she was a child, developing an affinity for a spiritual text at an early age, which helped her gain spiritual knowledge. In addition, it brought with it an unquenchable desire to know the truth of creation. As Divneet grew up, this desire became more and more powerful, swallowing her interests in worldly life. Although for a while she managed to balance her spiritual desires with her worldly desires, this force made itself clear. It will not go away until she reaps from it what it has to provide. Today, Divneet is an author, speaker, and consciousness teacher who speaks about the law of unification, empowering people to create new creations for the world and a conscious life of purpose. She's spent the past 2 decades studying consciousness development and self-mastery, and inspires you to think in a creative, innovative, radical ways to develop new solutions, and supporting leaders and accelerating their journey into fulfillment. And your website is divneetkaurlall.com. So Kaur is spelled KURLALL.com. Did you grow up with traditional religious background? What were your parents? What was your background as far as spiritual knowledge?
So yes, I grew up in a religious family. My parents were religious, and they are religious, and not just religious. I think my father was spiritual as well, because the first experience I had with where I got my first taste of that when I was looking for these books, and I found this book in my home in a cupboard or somewhere, and that was related to the yoga and meditation practices. So I think my dad was also into, he used to read those kind of texts, but it just I found it to be really, really attractive, and I just wanted to go deeper into it. So I started learning about those books and those texts in a deeper manner. So yes, religion is a part of our family, but then yes, I think there is also this touch of spirituality to that.
Many people would say religion is spirituality, but what flavor of religion? Was it Hindu, Muslim? What type of religion were you? Because, you know, in the West, our dominant religion is Catholic, Protestant, sort of that sort of flavor, lots of Jewish people, and especially in Australia, lots of Hinduism. A lot of people who join our conscious community or spiritual community get into the Indian sort of flavor of spirituality, doing a lot of yoga and Indian type mantra and meditation. It's very popular here, not so much in America, but very popular in Australia. So what did you grow up with? Hinduism or?
Yeah, so my family, so we are from Sikh religion. So
Sikh, nice.
It's a very new, you know, it's not that old like Hinduism. It's kind of, you can say a lot of Sikh teachings of Sikhism, they are derived from Hinduism and so many other texts as well. So it kind of, it's like it incorporates a lot of things in that. If you will read the holy textbook, which we actually call as our present guru, the holy holy Sikh textbook, it's Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So it's beautiful, and it does not only, you know, contains the essence of spirituality, but it also contains the essence of all the other religions. And I think that is the best part of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and I love reading it. So it, you know, it kind of opens the doors for us to explore other religions as well. So if you want to go deeper into other religions as well, we can go to, you know, read Bhagavad Gitas, we can read Vedas, because there is a mention of all those texts in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So we can do that.
I know. Religion is, there's so many, you know, offshoots of the one sort of in Hinduism and especially Christianity. You know, there's so many modes of thinking that are offshoots from the original Christian texts. You know, I can't even name them. And I suspect it's the same with Hinduism. It's an even older religion. It's all based
more like, you know, so whenever a religion comes into, you know, existence, it's more like it is derived from spirituality itself. So if someone starts a religion, they have had spiritual experiences, and then they try to put it into words, they try to put those teachings into the world, and in a way it becomes religion. So it's the same thing, just when we give structure to it, it kind of becomes religion for us.
You know, what I want to know, why I'm asking you this is, it says in your bio that you were reading spiritual texts, and I was wondering what spiritual texts those were. Was it the Sikh spiritual texts, or was it more modern spiritual texts like Wayne Dyer or Conversation with God or Abraham or, you know, Seth, the Seth material? I mean,
so I started with, I'm very fond of these religious texts, not just Sikh religious texts, but even I have read, you know, holy books related to, I mean, a lot of religions like Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, even Christianity. So I have read a lot of texts, and I have also read those spiritual texts as well. You're talking about the authors from America, the authors from various other books maybe we are not even aware about. So I have read them all. But there is this one thing which I found, which I used to interpret them in a very different way earlier before I had this spiritual experience. But once I had the spiritual experience, I was able to connect all those things. Like they were all the same. They were just using different ways to represent the same thing, but it was all the same. They were all talking about same thing. And it was just, the experiences may be different. Like some people say that a dissolution of ego happened and they kind of met God, or some people say there was the person disappeared and we were able to see this, this oneness in the world. So all these things mean the same thing. They are just using their own individual expression to express these things through their books, through that knowledge they are sharing, maybe through holy text or everything we read.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Once you really embody the knowing of what is being taught, you see that same knowing in everything that's written. in everything
Right.
that's written.
Right.
It is spoken in different vernacular with different words, but it is the one truth. But what I'm interested to know is, well, tell us about your spiritual experience. What happened?
I used to do this meditation practices, and I used to read those texts, but I never thought, it's gonna do something to me. I was just doing it because I was interested in those things, to know there's some deeper truth, and there was this strong urge. But I was also working, and I was also, trying to balance all those things with my work, with my material life. But there was this strong desire which kind of started growing in a manner. For a while, it started growing, and I kind of also neglected it for a while. Kind of, we are not going to leave our jobs and sit in a corner and do all those things. So that was what I used to think about. So but then it was so strong that I had to do that, and I kind of felt so strongly drawn that I spent a lot of time in solitude, and I got deeper into meditation. And when I was doing that meditation, one day, it kind of, everything just kind of disappeared. Something kind of disappeared, and I had no idea what it was. So at that moment, although I used to read those spiritual texts, but when that dissolution happens, when that person disappears, or when that ego disappears, it's really disorienting. And you cannot say it's because you think that spiritual experience is going to be really something very beautiful and something very it's going to change your life. But it was just that it just kind of that identification went away, and I felt that something has gone, and I did not know what it was. And after a while, because that was a time when it was very empty, and the fullness was not there, and it took some time for me to actually, for that brightness, or for that fullness to come in, and for the process which has to, it kind of was not completed in that moment. The only thing which happened was that ego dissolution. So I had to figure out what it was. I was not able to do anything because, earlier it was the person who was controlling everything, the person who was taking charge of everything. Like, I need to do this, I need to do that. And when that person kind of disappeared, I had no idea what to do. Now there was no one, the master or the person who was mastering everything was not there. So it was empty. I was just, there was this awareness that something is there. I'm not there, something is there. I did not know what it was there. So I just kind of spent more time on solitude, did self-inquiry, and read more texts, books, trying to figure out what it is. And after a while, that the brightness started coming in. And when, that fullness comes in, that was the time I knew that, yeah, now this is it. Like, this is this is what I was searching for. And that is something beautiful. And then it's more like your life becomes a flow after that, because then your mind cannot think or plan things like we have to do this, we have to do that. It's more like things start happening in your life, and you kind of surrender to it, or you kind of leave that control. But before that, everything is being controlled by the mind.
Beautiful. So how long ago did that happen, Divneet?
So maybe I think it's been years now. Maybe I do not know, 4 or 5 or 6 maybe. So it's been years now. But then these ideas started coming in, and I started working upon this book. I had no idea why I was doing that, but I had to do it. It was again there was this strong force which made me do it. And I started writing, and I did that. Although I always say that I was not interested in like writing or something. I never planned that I'm going to be an author and do this kind of work. I was like, okay with my job, but yeah, it kind of suddenly happened.
So before you put yourself out there as a spiritual mentor, teacher, you were in the corporate world, you said.
Right.
What were you doing?
So I was in the technical field. I'm an engineer, and so I was working there. But yeah, there was, I would not say that I was very happy with that. I was okay with that. I never thought that I'm going to, change or leave it. I was actually thinking about working hard in the same field and, achieving something. But then I was okay with that. But there was this desire. I would say that there was something that was missing. Maybe I was not following my purpose. Maybe there was something else I had to do. And I even was not aware about that at that moment.
Whereabouts in India are you?
I'm in New Delhi.
Oh, you're in New Delhi. And was engineering something that you wanted to do or you were encouraged to do by your family or friends or?
No, I think, in India, how it happens, we just grow up and I was good in studies. So I took a stream like I studied science, and then we are like, okay, so now we have done science. Now there are like these two fields. You can go and become a doctor, or you can go become an engineer. So I did not want to become a doctor. So I thought, okay, engineer is a good choice. Let's become an engineer.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, interesting. I know they don't really teach you how to be a teacher of deliberate creation at university, do they? It's not really on the curriculum yet.
Exactly. This is how we do this. I mean, this is how we are programmed to do, or how to choose our line of work.
But I'm thinking you and I and everybody else are going to change that, like maybe after my lifetime, but one day deliberate creation or conscious creation or, the law of unification or those sorts of subjects will be on the curriculum of every university. This is
exactly. And, it's so good that you mentioned it. Even I have mentioned this in the book, Mastering Creation Using the Law of Unification, that we need to, create these, add these things, maybe law of unification or this conscious creation into the syllabus so that we can have those things, because the new generation is not going to follow. I do not think they are going to be living like us at all. They are more aware. I just feel they are more aware. Even my nieces and nephews, or maybe the children I come across, I just feel they are not like us. They just do not blindly follow anything. So I feel there is this awareness in them. And if we can kind of cultivate it, or if we can, help them to make good decisions, it would be so much beneficial for them and for the planet as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how did, so when you had this spiritual awareness occur, so first there was the dissolving of the ego, and then there was a sense of sort of emptiness, which didn't feel bad, but just confusing, right? Because there's kind of like nothing. The mind is always got to do this, got to make a plan, got to get that, like it's always doing. And emptiness is just being, it's just stillness. Right. And then you said a brightness came in. What did the brightness feel like? Was it an expansion of your psychic abilities? Like, what was happening when you said the brightness came in?
So it was like, it's like, how do I explain this? It's like, when we wear sunglasses, there is this kind of small field which covers our eyes, like a black tint or some tint, whatever tint the sunglasses are. So it just kind of happened like that tint was removed and everything started to appear bright, and things were, at times I also felt that when I was very fond of animation movies earlier. So when I used to watch those animation movies, I just felt that I'm just watching those animation movies. I mean, it happened. It kind of felt so bright, so lively, I would say, that I just explain it by the word brightness, because it just appears like that to me. It just feels like I was living in some kind of, there was this dark tint around my eyes earlier, and then slowly, and it did not happen in one day, it happened gradually after that emptiness experience. It was like one day at a time, this tint was being removed, and a day happened. I was standing in the balcony and I was looking outside and I was like, oh my God, this is something else. I just did not have words to explain it. I just felt like wow, it was something else. I don't know. All I could say is that this is different. And it just felt very light, very beautiful.
So did you start to tap in more to your spirit guides? Did you start to hear your higher self sort of communing with you, talking with you, inspiring you?
No, I did not do anything. I'm the person who's mostly into books and texts. So even when I was trying to figure out things, I was reading those books, those texts, trying to see. And I think they helped me understand. So when you read those words written by those, enlightened people, it actually actually, even when we do not understand the language, I feel that there is this essence in them which makes us clear about something. Like it just creates a knowing inside us that there is something else, something different, and you just know. Like even if we do not have words to explain those things, you just know that what is it. So I think I was taking all the help I was taking from those holy texts, those spiritual texts and books. And I've always considered them my teachers. Like those books are my teachers. I always say them that. So I don't think I need to connect with anything else. I think I just need to do some self-inquiry. For me, it works like that, like self-inquiry and reading those texts, those words from those enlightened people, enlightened masters.
Well, I feel like spiritual texts are not teaching us as much as reminding us what our soul or our inner knowing already knows. And
that's so true.
I people ask me this question because I speak about my mob, my spiritual team, or my higher self, or my guides, or whatever you want to call it, a lot. And as a young girl, they were always speaking to me, and I knew it, but I never identified with it as anything outside of me talking to myself. Like I just used to call it my common sense. It always made a lot of sense. And then we have free will, and as a sort of rebellious young girl, I would have a thought that would make a lot of sense, but I could choose to ignore it, and I often did. And every time I ignored my common sense, which is what I called it, I kind of got myself in trouble. And when I listened to it, I didn't. So it really wasn't until I was reading the book's Conversation with God, a spiritual text, that Neil, Donald Walsh, having the conversation with what he deems as God, there's the distinct two voices in the book. So there's the inquiring mind, the questioner, but what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And then there's the answer. And I realized that I was having that same conversation in my own head. I was having questions that I wasn't reading in the book. And then I was receiving the answers that were not written in the text. Have you experienced something like that? I suspect that you have.
Right. Yes, and that is what I call self-inquiry, because, I always say that the answers are within us. So that wisdom which we are searching for outside, and even in those books. So even those books, they are like pointings, like where we need to go to or what we need to see. So even those words, they are just pointing us. And the self-inquiry does the same thing. So when we question ourselves, we know that where we need to go, or maybe there are pointings inside. So I do not receive answers, in the form of words or something, but I just feel there is this knowing which happens. So even when I do this self-inquiry, it's more like a kind of understanding comes in, and I'm just able to understand what it is, or where do I have to go, or what is the next step I need to take. And I think if we can incorporate all those things in our lives, we can be better decision makers in our lives, even if we have to take a smallest decision in our life. And if we can self-inquire and see what we need to do, instead of asking people, or because a lot of people make decisions by following the crowd, like what other people are doing, let's do the same thing. If that is working for them, maybe it will work for us. But it doesn't happen that way, because we all have our own individual purpose here, our own individual dharma, and we all can take different paths, and it can lead us to our destiny, or maybe what is the best for us, what is the best for the planet, or maybe which can help grow our consciousness. So I think it's best to make our own decisions by following that voice inside us, or maybe by doing self-inquiry, or maybe so people have different words, like connecting with those guides, talking to God. So whatever we can call that inner voice, that inner wisdom is so necessary to connect with.
Yeah, you can call it inner knowing. I speak to many people who say, I don't have spirit guides talking to me. And I say, but you know stuff? Yeah, I know stuff. It's like, I don't know. You can call it spirit guides, or you can call it your higher self, or your inner being, or your inner knowing. It really doesn't matter what you label it, as long as you follow it.
Exactly.
And when people say, I ask someone a question and they say, I don't know, I would say, yeah, you do know. Because, when we're self-inquiring, as you say, when you inquire, you have an instant knowing, and then your logical questioning mind comes in almost immediately after you have the knowing, right? You have the knowing and then you have the question and then you doubt it and then you say, I don't know, but there is this knowing. So if you press people and say, what if you did know? They say, well, this is what I think, It's like, okay, but the questioner seems to dominate, like that can't be right. No, I don't know that. The questioner, the logical inquiring mind, or the ego mind, some people call it the doubting mind. But yes, so one can call it inner knowing and it would still be the same thing as guidance or yeah.
And like we say, I don't know, I think it also works in self-inquiry. I would say, like, even if people say, I do not know, that also kind of, pulls that trigger and takes them into that knowing. Even if we have a question coming from, and we are like, I don't know, that means we want to know something. That is like, it just puts us deeper into that. I do not know something. And we can go into that knowing instead of going, when we are saying, I don't know, and when we are searching around, when we are going here and there. So you say I do not know, but just connect with that again, like, I don't know and I want to know. So go there and deeper into that and you will find it.
Absolutely.
Because it happens a lot of times, even with me, it happens, although I feel that flow comes in there, like flow is there, but I still feel a lot of times that mind comes in, the mind dissolved, because the mind, I don't think the mind dissolved, I think the ego dissolved. So ego is not there, that person is not there, but the mind is, those thoughts are always there, but I'm able to, consciously choose them. And a lot of times when maybe you ask me something and I'm like, I don't know, and then immediately the answer comes in.
Yeah.
So it happens with me. Yeah, I just say I don't know and then I answer, yeah, this is it. So I feel it helps. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you, because there's a beautiful word that you use that not everyone might know. And obviously, Deepak Chopra has done a lot for expanding sort of beautiful words from India in the English, the Western society. But you use the word Dharma. Do you want to explain to people what Dharma is?
Right. And I have even, it's also part of the book, but it's I have explained it in a different manner. I mean, how I experience it, for me, it was more about individual dharma. So usually in India, dharma is the word which is used to describe religion, which is not very accurate in a sense, because we usually term dharma as our religion. Like, what is your religion? What is your dharma? That is how Indians refer to it. But in a way, it is more like the highest law, like the highest law of the universe, or how we can follow it. Dharma is more like that one law which is there, which is supporting us all, which is supporting the planet, the universe. But in a way, it is also individual to every person. So everyone's individual dharma, if we all follow our own individual dharma, our own that distinct law or that distinct purpose, as a whole, we would be able to fulfill that whole dharma, like dharma of the universe. And what happens is we deviate from our own individual dharma, which in turn kind of hinders the functioning of the whole, the functioning of the universe. Because if we are following, if each one of us is consciously following our own individual dharma, we are going to help other people in a way to follow their individual dharma, and then in turn help the planet follow its individual dharma. And we can become a peaceful planet in that manner. But if we are going to deviate from that, if our egos are going to rule us and will not let us follow those things, we are not going to become a peaceful planet. We are going to keep fighting for things which the ego desires. We will be fulfilling those lower desires which the ego has. So it is so important for us to follow our individual dharma.
So it would be like, another way of saying it would be like your soul's plan or your soul's intention for your lifetime. So we speak a lot about, before we come into this incarnation here on earth, we from the spirit side, with our spirit guides and angels, we create a plan and we say, okay, I'm going to come into density, into this contrasting environment, and then I'm going to live out a physical life. And the plan is to do this. But as you say, free will and ego does not always stick to the plan, right? So you could call that dharma. And for the planet has her plan as well. So that would be collective or universal global dharma. Yeah. I guess she doesn't have a plan for humans to, affect so much war and damage to her body. So she would have.
I think it's more like this consciousness is like kind of incorporating everything, so it's everywhere. So, and it's always evolving. It's evolving through human beings. It needs to evolve through us, because the way our ancestors used to live, we are not living like that. And I think the awareness grows in a manner, maybe we are educating each other, maybe, so in every way the awareness grows. But then as the awareness is growing, the ego is also growing, and it's more like a struggle now. So ego, or the human mind, which kind of does not allow that awareness or those new consciousness to come into the planet, to establish itself onto the planet. So that struggle is also there. So if we can rise above those forces, the forces of the mind which are stopping us, or maybe the forces of the lower levels of consciousness, we can help that new consciousness to stabilize on this planet, or stabilize into the world by creating new creations, as you talked about in the beginning, that we can use those deliberate creation and put it into the new curriculum. So all those are new creations. We can build those new schools, new universities, which can provide that curriculum. So we can create those new creations, and those new creations need to be built around that newer levels of consciousness, which is so important. Because I think that struggle is what keeps us away from that. I have been through that, because I was also kind of struggling to and there was a time in my life as well when I was because for a while I was not ready to leave my work, and I was not ready to start this new thing, but I had to do it. I thought that this is important, maybe this is important, and it has to be brought into the world in a way, and I just cannot resist it. And you know what, this is so powerful. And I would say that I've also written it in the book that if consciousness desires to bring those new creations into the world, or take this planet to new levels of consciousness, there is no way we can stop it from doing that.
Absolutely.
Or what will happen is we will struggle, we will suffer, because it needs something, it needs to evolve, and we are not going along with it. So we are fighting it. And that is the reason that on our planet there are so many things that are growing. This anger, these distortions we are seeing in the world, fighting and everything. These things grow because we resist that. We resist that new levels of consciousness, which is needed to be brought into the world.
So your book wasn't in your bio. What is your book called?
It's Mastering Creation Using the Law of Unification.
Okay, Mastering Creation Using the Law of Unification. And
Right.
as someone who feels that their ego dissolved, and so you had the experience of knowing ego because you didn't know ego, how would you explain the ego to people?
Yeah, this is so true. You said it so rightly, that I know ego because I did not knew it early. I mean, this is so true. How would I explain it? Is I just feel that it kind of sticks around. It was something that used to stick around everything. Even if we own something, we have something, maybe a thing, maybe a person. Ego is something which kind of attaches itself. It's more like that leech, it kind of attaches itself to everything it sees, it has, and that is how it is. And as soon as it was dissolved, you are free. It's like, now you're not, you still love people, you still have that compassion for people, you still have those feelings, emotions, but those attachments are not there. Like that strong attachment which kind of binds us to everything, which is like chains, I would say, that drops away. So I think ego is more like that. It kind of binds us to everything, and we just feel that we are stuck. We are just, we cannot move, we cannot do anything. We suffer because of that. And as soon as it goes away, we just feel that suffering was never there. It was just that it just felt like it is suffering, but it was never there. Even those emotions which we think, like when those emotions arise in us, like hurt, pain, and all those things, even that doesn't feel like suffering. It just feels like something is passing by, as those that happiness passes by. Similarly, all those emotions flow through you. It becomes like that. So I think ego is something that kind of sticks to everything. So
Can I
yeah.
can I add my view to what I think that you're alluding to?
Mhm.
Ego is the part of us that creates separation, because as you talk about with the law of unification, so the truth of who we are is one with everything, and we know that. So we have to have an experience when we come into this polarized world of polarity. We have to have a mechanism in which we experience separation. And the ego is the part of us that does that for us. So we feel separate from love and separate from each other and separate from our
This is so
source.
beautiful.
But
Right. And now that you have, pointed to it, and I think, yes, because when this experience happened, when that emptiness came in, not during that period when there was this emptiness, but yeah, when that light came in, I simply felt the same way. Like it was this, everything is like one. So
mhm.
yes, maybe that ego was the thing which was creating that separateness. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful tool of being human. And
Right.
I was for years with many spiritual teachers that were talking about dissolving the ego and laying the ego at the foot of the guru. And I actually don't want to dissolve my ego or I actually love the part of me that is ego, but I understand it is an experience of me. It is not me. So it is the part of me that worries and questions. And then the
Right.
greater part of me is always there, like the voice in my head or the common sense that is there to answer the questioner. But the questioner, the one that feels separate from the answers, that gives birth to the question, is summoning the answers. And as the answers are summoned, then creation happens. And so I think the ego has a very important role to play in creation of this world, because most people don't create without ego. They desire something. So the ego is very connected to desire, actually. So when you desire something or want something, you have this feeling that you're separate from it. So I want abundance because you feel poor, or I want love because you feel separate from love, or I want health because you feel separate from health. So the ego is very much a part of creation because desires are birthed out of lack. And as those desires are birthed, you summon that energy and create a new. But I think that that's changing as we evolve,
Yeah, so I think you're right that ego has its own desires. Now this is something which is explained in mastering creation using the law of unification as well, that there are these desires which are coming from those lower levels of consciousness, and then there are these desires that are coming from those higher levels of consciousness.
Mhm.
So as ego has its own desires, similarly that higher consciousness which is flowing through everyone and which wants to bring in new creations into the
Yeah,
world also has its
absolutely.
desires.
Mhm.
And only if only when that ego is dissolved, only when the lower desires are taken over, that higher consciousness will be able to fulfill its own desires through us. Because if we are going to have, so I like this thing, that deliberate creation, but what if that deliberate creation is given that space for the higher consciousness to work through it? So we are creating through our mind, like we watch something on television or maybe social media, and we are like, we need that thing, we need that money, and we are trying to manifest it. And what if that is not even our purpose, or that is not going to lead us to our evolution? So what here is required is we need to connect with those higher desires, the desires which will actually help us in our evolution, or actually help us bring in fulfillment. Because a lot of times we create something and we do not achieve fulfillment through it. We just create it because our mind gets programmed, and we are like, okay, I need this because everyone is having this and maybe it will bring me happiness. But no, it cannot bring us fulfillment. The true desires, those higher desires which are actually coming from those higher levels of consciousness, not the desires of the ego, are the desires which are going to bring us fulfillment. And I think if we can use the deliberate creation in that way, it will be, the planet will be fulfilling planet, and everything will be peaceful and happy.
Well, I have a slightly different view.
Okay.
I think that fulfillment is, and not something that is gained. So there is still this seeking fulfillment. So when you're seeking anything, the dominant vibration you're putting out is, I don't have this.
Right.
So whether you're seeking fulfillment from connecting to your spirit guides or your soul or your consciousness, or you're seeking fulfillment, from having a lot of money and being famous and drinking lots of champagne or whatever, diamonds, you're still seeking something you think that you lack. And so it's still a story of lack in some way. But, I've had this conversation with many people. Jim Carrey, do you know who Jim Carrey is?
I think I have heard the name, but I do not remember.
He's an American actor comedian who's made many movies, and he's had he's always been quite conscious. And anyway, there was famously this statement where he said to people, I wish you could all have everything that you ever desired, because then you will know that you never really wanted it.
Right. That's true. That's true.
And you can't say that to someone who's so in the wanting. It was same with Tom Shadyac, who is another American movie maker who made millions of dollars and moved into this 17-room mansion in Hollywood and realized that it didn't matter how much success and wealth he got, he was not any happier. And he started looking at happiness and creation in very different ways, because like a young man setting out, he wanted to make, great movies and get successful and get fame and all that sort of stuff. And he did that. And then he sold everything and moved into a trailer park and lived very simply. Even though he had millions of dollars, he gave most of his money to charity and just realized that happiness is inside. Yeah, it's not about the Hollywood. Yeah. But, when you tell people that who are very poor, like if you say that to the people that, the slums of India, maybe, that having a better lifestyle is not going to bring them happiness, I don't know if they'll really understand that. Do you think?
No, see, I do not agree with this, that when we negate the material. So even mastering creation using the law of unification, the book does not negate the material and is only about the spiritual thing. It's more about unifying both the things. So we need both. We need the spiritual fulfillment as well, and we need that material fulfillment as well. But if we are doing the creation just based upon the material, it's not going to provide us fulfillment, because there the spirituality is lacking. There that spiritual stuff is lacking. There that higher consciousness is lacking. And similarly, if we are, just living in that corner and just, trying to become spiritual or trying to be that thing, that's not going to work as well, because we still need to live in this material world. And that is the reason we are creating here. And that is the reason creation is important. So we need both. We just cannot negate one from the other. So the creation has to be like a total. It needs to provide us material fulfillment, and it needs to provide us spiritual fulfillment as well.
Mm. So what is your understanding of the law of unification?
So law of unification, when those ideas started hitting me, and it actually came from how the geniuses bring in new creations into the world. Plus, it was found in various motifs of the creator gods from various religions, various mythologies. And it was also found in some of other texts like Bhagavad Gita. Like the same law, it was portrayed in different manner, but it was found in all those places. And according to law of unification, when we rise above the forces of the lower levels of consciousness, and when we unify our human mind with the idea mind, we can actually bring in new creations into the world, which will provide us fulfillment and which will help us, fulfill our individual dharma. So it's more like, again, it's the same thing. It's not only creating the material things into the world, the new things into the world, but it is also connecting. It is also helping us connect with that individual dharma, with our own true purpose, which will bring us spiritual fulfillment as well.
And what would you like to see for Mother India? Because I've been to India, not for a long time, but listening to Divneet and all the India is a crazy place. With all the cars and the horns and the chaos. It's and we're hearing all the beeping in the background.
Can you hear it now? Because I'm in the last room right now, and outside there's this road, and I thought maybe. Are you able to hear it?
Yeah, but it's beautiful. It just sets the stage because it's so India. It's just like you're not in India unless you're hearing a car horn going beep beep beep.
I usually do my these podcast interviews in the midnight because that is the time when we cannot hear it. Yeah, it's quiet, and right now because it's in Australia and our times are kind of so it was evening there, and so I thought let's do it. Let's take a chance, maybe. But yeah, I can still hear it.
Okay. India is when I went to India, I was married to a man who was Hare Krishna, and he had the 25 books of the Upanishads. Like that's what he took with him when he left his first wife. He took his suitcase of clothes and the 25 or 24 books of the Upanishads? I don't know how many, but anyway, the stack of he carried that around with him. It was funny. A couple of weeks before I met him, I had a psychic reading from a woman who was a devotee of Sai Baba. And I didn't ask about a love life at the time. I was asking about other things, but she said, you have to be a vegetarian and you have to read the 25 books of the Upanishads. And I said, why do I have to do that? And she said, it's God's word here on earth. And I'm like, God's word is here on earth in many spiritual texts, why the Upanishads? And I didn't want to read the 25 books of the Upanishads.
That's right. That's too much.
I met my second husband and he had them all. And I'm like, okay. And he was this really strict vegetarian. So what she was seeing was him, and she was translating it into my have-tos, right? But she was actually seeing him. But he wanted to go to Mother India, so we went there and spent quite a lot of time touring around. That was a long time ago. But what would you like to see for India? What's happening in India now? What's happening with the world crisis? Let's hear your perspective.
So I think it's right now it's better in India. My nieces and nephews, they're like starting their schools again. So schools are opening up. So the condition is getting better, and we're very thankful for that. And I think in the world as well, though I haven't read the news for a while, but I think it's getting better now everywhere, maybe in Australia as well. Yeah.
Is it getting better in Australia?
Yeah, because in India, I think it's getting better and things are opening up. So,
you know what, as far as getting better, I predicted, mid-year that the government with their harsh restrictions and lockdowns and their mandating would ease up around Christmas time, kind of give us a little bit of respite, a bit of a rest, so that we could maybe enjoy that sort of Christmassy spirit, because they're saying here in Australia that people that are unvaccinated are not allowed to go out, they're not allowed to go to shops, they're not allowed to do this, they're not allowed to do that, and if you're vaccinated, so they're bribing people to get the vaccination. You can keep your job if you get vaccinated, you can go shopping if you get vaccinated, you can have a normal life if you get vaccinated, but if you don't, you're restricted, and so it's bribery. And then they're saying they're going to lift those restrictions around mid-December, right? And they might or they might not. And I feel like they will for a time, and then bang, another variant will come in next year and it'll all happen all over again. Just when people think that things are getting better, it's like
that's right.
It's a false sense of peace.
Yeah, that's right. We were also thinking about the same thing because we were told that there's gonna be third wave as well.
Right.
So but we were like in a good state. Like because this is a time for festivals in India. We have Diwali, we have other festivities in Navratris, and then there is this wedding season going on. So, like what not, and people just cannot stay inside. It's just impossible during festivals. Like festivals are our life here. So we just have to do that. So markets are full and all those things are happening. So, but I think thankfully we're good with it. The cases are not rising. So people are able to celebrate Diwali, people are able to celebrate Navratri as well, and now weddings are going on. So it's going good till now. Let's see how the things unfold. I hope everything goes well.
What are you seeing around you? Just your experience, apart from what's on the mainstream news and stuff like that. What are you seeing around you? What are people saying to you?
Karen, I'm someone right now. I'm all into work. I'm just talking to most of the people I'm talking to are from US, like the podcasters, and other meetings are going on. So I'm not even going. I do not move around a lot. Like I'm that kind of person. I stay inside, and I was busy with these festivities and everything. I was, with the family and everything. So people are not right now talking about COVID. I think for them it's over right now. So my family, or maybe my friends, we do not talk about COVID a lot right now. It's more, I think it was in India, it was over. It was over even as soon as the lockdown lifts up for India, the COVID is over. So you can see everyone moving around doing their stuff, so they are free to do whatever they want to do. So it doesn't matter if the third wave will come for us. But it's obviously we have to see the restrictions, but it's more like there are so many things they need to take care of. So because here we have these people who are working in their shops, people who are selling things on the streets, so they cannot sit inside for even one day. So they are the people who are daily, they have their daily wages, and if they sit there inside their home, so they'll not be able to get
to eat
for even one day.
Exactly. Yeah. And so did India introduce strict lockdowns? I mean, India is just such a different country to America or Australia, and of course there's so many people in India compared to like somewhere like Australia or New Zealand, not so much the States, but it's such a different country. And people that have their little stalls and stuff, they need to work every day to feed their family. Like they can't not have money come in. So did they lock down people like that, or did the people that had their stalls just ignore it and sell stuff anyway?
So there was a time when there was this complete lockdown, when the cases were like really, really high. So there was this time, but then those people were getting affected, but it did not happen for too long because government had to open the lockdown because of they have to take care of them as well. And I think somehow they managed the lockdown and kind of, asked them to stay inside. But there were a lot of people who were, and then there was I think there was this kind of the lockdown where certain people were allowed to sell things. Maybe there were these small shops which are selling
essential
food,
items.
Essential items. So they were allowed to do that. So it
was the
like
same
that.
Here. Like we have markets here. Not like Indian markets, but markets nonetheless. And at the markets, they would sell things like perfume, candles, and clothes, and shoes, and hats, and bags, and stuff like that. And then when they did the lockdowns, all the people that were selling not, items that were not necessary, like shoes and handbags and hats and things, they went away, and so the markets were just food. And I thought that was great, actually. And then just recently, a few weeks ago, the lockdowns lifted. So when you go to the market now, all the candles and the bags and the hats and clothes are back. But so the markets were just food items. So that's what happened here in Australia as well. But maybe you're not the person to talk about India, because you're sort of online talking to people in Australia, on podcasts talking to people in the States, and sort of in your own world. And so how do you teach? You teach online, do you? You can't teach in gatherings at the moment.
So I will be starting soon because there were these people who reached out to me after reading the book, and they were like, we need to go deeper into the practices. So I thought I should be starting this Law of Unification program if they need it. And we would be launching it soon. And I would be starting online before we can go into person to person, because it's going to take some time. And there are certain, these COVID things, like people need to get vaccinated when they're in a group and all those things. So there are constraints. So to start with, there is this page on the website, which is to register for the Law of Unification program, where people can register themselves and, enroll. And as soon as we'll start or the program will launch, they will receive the email.
You know what I see? I see you working with children.
Okay, can you repeat that? Sorry, I did not get that. You want me to work with children?
I see you working with children. Mm.
Oh, that's awesome. I love children. Like, I love to spend time with them, and I can do that. I was also working with children. I was teaching them for a while, just, I just, because I like that. So there was this, the school for underprivileged, and I was teaching there. And it's so much fun to teach them. Yeah, it's really great. The energy they are having, and it's beautiful.
So what were you teaching them? Were you teaching them just sort of normal math and
yeah,
like
it's
just
normal, like the schools.
But can you take your
subjects?
Can you take your program into that place?
I can do that. So what age would you suggest me to teach them?
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, because the very young ones are not gonna get it. I think they're gonna be
yeah, they will.
They will. I can teach them meditation.
You can teach them meditation, and you can just, the young ones totally get it. So you teach them meditation, and then you ask them questions, and you just change the vocab, the vernacular, the words. You just make it in the words that kids would understand.
That's beautiful. I think we can do that.
You can do that. Look,
Definitely.
these programs, they're happening throughout schools now. I have a friend in the States whose son was killed in a shooting in an American school, and she's teaching. She calls it an enrichment program, or and some people are calling it anti-bullying. Like they're using words that the mainstream schools can understand. So why does someone bully somebody? Because they're feeling, not good enough inside, and just getting people to go in and feel their power inside.
Right.
It's just, you can really make it very mainstream.
We can do that, right? Yeah. I mean, yes, I think I would love to do that. I love to spend time with them.
I see that. I mean, you can still do your own adults and do your online stuff, but I do see you going back and working with the kids. Or maybe you still are working with the kids. I don't know.
I think maybe I could do that part-time or somewhere, because as I told you, I love to spending time with them, and it's just makes you more joyful, to spending time with kids. Yeah, it's so joyful.
The kids are fabulous.
Right.
Oh, darling one, it's been such a beautiful blessing and pleasure to talk with you today.
Same here.
To hear about your law of unification and your experience, and a little bit about what's happening in India. We'll wait and see what happens next year. Yes, as you say, it's festival season and wedding season in India, and they're going to roll out the third wave next year. They're going to go just when you think you're getting comfortable and life's going back to what we deem as normal. They're going to go, stop, Marburg's happening. They're going to call it Marburg, and everybody has to. This is more potent and more dangerous than what's the one, Delta and COVID. And they're going to roll it out next year. But it's all a reason to it. There's all a reason to it, and many people are coming up with ways in which to get around it, like you are. Doing stuff online and changing as they lose their jobs. They're sort of moving into other jobs, which is helping them, which maybe they enjoyed more than the jobs they were doing before. There's lots of reasons for this happening in the world. And even though it looks bad, it's all good.
That's right. There's always a purpose behind it. I agree with that. There is always a purpose. Even suffering has its own purpose.
Right. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Karen. It was so wonderful talking to you.
Isn't Divneet gorgeous? Such a beautiful, beautiful teacher. It was fascinating hearing her story. We had a long chat after I turned off the recording, and as usual, I was thinking it got so interesting that I was thinking, I wish I still had the recording on. What were we talking about? We were talking about the ego. We got more into the ego, and when you dissolve the ego, you still have to come back into understanding that we can't. I was saying that we can't operate in this world without having an ego. I was telling her about Byron Katie when she first had her epiphany, how she woke up, as she says, a cockroach crawled over her foot and woke her up. I always say she woke up dead, because she woke up in that same experience that people often speak about when they've had near-death experiences, feeling one with everything and connected to everything, not identified with the body, not identified with personality or identity at all. And she looked in the mirror, and she was looking at this face in the mirror. She had no idea it was her. And she didn't. So the ego is that part of us that helps us operate in this world of separateness and polarity, where you say, this top is mine, or this body is mine and your body is yours. It's this idea of separateness. So even Byron, when she first had her epiphany, didn't understand that separateness, and she's spoken about walking into somebody else's house. She had no idea that property was not hers to walk into, because there was this no concept of yours and mine. There's just this oneness of being. And so if we are identified with being completely one and unified, we couldn't really operate in this world. So as much as you can dissolve the ego, it's like you expand into the oneness, and then you reconnect with your truth, and you come back into the concepts and the identity of the ego, but you're completely changed, and you realize that the ego is something that you wear and not something who you are. Whereas before you thought it was, you thought you identified with the ego being you. Yeah, anyway, so that was a part of the conversation that we had after I turned off the recording. But yes, she gorgeous, lovely, beautiful, young, beautiful teacher. Yeah, and I was quizzing her more about India and how those concepts that she's teaching is. We were just talking about, I think we said it on the recording on the show as well, that India is one of these countries that is so identified with their religion. It's so religious everywhere you go. And I was there years ago. Everything is about religion. Everything. It's an interesting place. India is an interesting place. Yeah, it's a very interesting place. Anyway, I think that she's hoping, because she's published the book in America, that she's hoping that she'll get some recognition and stuff in the Western countries. But I feel like she's needed in India. She's needed in India because there's so much, religion can be a good thing, but if it's just a habitual thing that you don't really understand as your truth, just something that you need to do in order to, please the gods or please God or not go to hell or whatever idea you have, it's kind of different than having that knowing inside you of who you are. Yeah, that knowing that you are love, that you are peace, that you are bliss, that you are powerful, that you need never worry or fret. You are loved, guided, supported. You are what you seek. You are what you seek. Anytime you seek something, you're saying, I am separate to that. And it's really simple to just reclaim that connection to what it is that you think you desire or want. I want money because I want to feel secure or not afraid or worried about money. I want to feel abundant, or I want to feel rich. I want to feel like I can be and do and have anything I want. Money seems to denote freedom, the ability to be and do and have anything you desire. But if you reconnect to the freedom within yourself, you are what you're looking for. You don't even need the money anymore. You stop wanting. And once you stop wanting, you don that vibration, you align with that vibration. Everything comes to you once you stop wanting it. That's the irony of all of this, right? I remember in the book's Conversation with God through Neil Donald Walsh says that very clearly. You cannot have what you want. And then you listen to Abraham and she says, you can have everything you want. Both are true. You can have everything you want when you stop wanting it. Want your connection to God. Seek that. Know that you are that. Know that you are what you seek. There you go. In a nutshell, know that you are what you seek. I am love. What does the Federation of Light say through Blossom? I am the love. I am the truth. I am the light. I am. And we had William Linville on the show, not on the show, in the Inner Sanctum this week. Josie Thompson's coming up in a couple of weeks. Incredible teacher. But William gave us this beautiful mantra. Now, did I write it down? Okay, I found it. How about this? I am a clear, perfect channel of divine love and truth. I am a clear, perfect channel of divine love and truth. I am a clear, perfect channel of divine love and truth. Say that a few hundred times a day. See how that changes your life. I am the light, I am the truth, I am the love. I am a clear, perfect channel of divine love and truth. Yeah, you are. Everybody is. When they claim it to be so, just claim it as your truth, and it will be your truth. Because what, you know what? It is your truth. And all the lies, all the thoughts that you have that you're not that, are the lies that we believe to be our truth. But the truth is, you are a divine, perfect channel. You are, what does he say? You are a clear, perfect channel of divine love and truth. You are a clear, perfect channel of divine love and truth. You are an extension of source energy, which is pure, positive energy connected to all that is, infinite intelligence, infinite creative potential. You can be and do anything you want. You can be and do and have anything you want. You are the power. You are the power. You are the power. You are the power of love. And boy, do we need the power of love more than anything at the moment. So I've been somebody that has been watching and listening to a lot that's going on in the world. And there's a lot going on in the world. That's why I wanted to quiz Divneet about India. But I don't think, apart from listening to the mainstream news, I don't think she knew too much, because she's quite, as she said, insular and just doing her own thing. And with all that we're seeing, we still have to remember that love created all of it, and to see it through the eyes of love, to see it through the eyes of love. That even though it looks terrible and people are sad and upset and angry and enraged on both camps with their opinions, you know, there's many opinions about what's right and wrong, and they're all enraged about what is going on. It's all happening for us and not to us. It's happening for us to remember our greater potential of who we are as genius creators here on earth, and to dip into that well of creativity in wanting to create what we desire. Whether we desire freedom, fairness, unity, less corruption in the world, it's all within us to create it, personally and collectively. Okay, I'm going to go. It's late in the evening. It's actually dinner time here now, and I've got another meeting in 20 minutes with some other people. So I'm going to go and have some dinner and get back online and have another meeting with our Palladian Awakening friends. And I will see you next time. As I said, Josie Thompson's coming up in the Inner Sanctum. And then in December, we have Tanis Halliwell, who's been on the show. And I just adore Tanis. And I am online every week teaching spiritual principles and deliberate creation and talking about all this stuff. We have a discussion. You can ask questions, ask your questions. We're doing global meditations at the moment, sending our love and focus into the world in a positive way, in an uplifting way, in a loving way, rather than looking out into the world and saying, no. We're looking out into the world and saying, thank you. Appreciating the world exactly as it is, not wanting to change it or fix it, but just sending love into the world and our lives. Exactly as appreciation and gratitude and love is the most powerful force that you can evoke in your life, including when you want to change anything. So that's what we're doing, and lots of discussion and lots of fabulous guest teachers come, and we get to meet them. As I said, William was just out of this world. I've got to edit the guest teacher we had last month and this month. I've got some editing to do, and because we had Serena Faith Masterson the month before, and she's amazing too. And the beautiful Josie Thompson, who's an Australian teacher, and she has survived cancer twice, brain tumor. I can't remember where the other cancer was. She's amazing. And Tanis. And remember to get the book Awakened by Death if you haven't already. I love you all big time. Bye for now.